We'll talk about that topic after we start with this 3-game losing streak. And after a reminder that March Madness officially starts at noon, guys, and there's no better place to get in on the action for all your March Madness gambling needs than with FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, brand new customers to FanDuel can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. You can even pick who's going to cut down the nets with tournament games happening almost every day for every hour of the next 4 days. There's always something to get excited to bet on. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get it on the college hoops action all tournament long. Speaking of March Madness, we have the UCSS Bracket Challenge. We've posted the link in the chat if you want to join. No prize money, just bragging rights, but we have over 70 submissions already, so a big pool. Let's have some fun. Submit your bracket.
I went straight homer and picked St. John's. St. John's is the 5th favorite to win the title, but I picked St. John's over Duke in the final. What'd you guys go with?
I went with Purdue over Grand Canyon.
No, you didn't.
I did.
He flipped a coin for every game.
I flipped a coin for every game. And I wound up with Purdue. I wrote a column on it. I don't even know if they're going to run it or not, but I wrote a column on it. But I have Purdue. I almost had Grand Canyon and Liberty in the national championship game. Liberty. And then all Jesus showdown. but Purdue beat
that would have been fun. I didn't realize Grand Canyon was a religious school.
Yeah.
I picked.
What you got?
Here's what I have for my champion. I have Tennessee.
I got them in the final
over St. John's in the final.
Oh, there you go. I have Tennessee and St. John's in the final four.
Who's your final four?
Mine is Tennessee, St. John's, Duke, and I didn't take anything lower than a 2.
Am I crazy? I have St. John's, Michigan, Wisconsin, Tennessee.
Oh, I had Michigan State.
Okay.
No, Wisconsin I had, I think, in the Elite Eight. Not that I'm an expert on college basketball. Who you got in the Final Four, Mike?
I ended up going with Auburn to win it all. I wanted to pick Florida.
Don't they have a big injury?
No. They just lost 3 of the last 4 games.
Are you sure about that? I thought they had a big injury.
No,
okay.
they're not the team that's injured. Duke has the injury. Houston's dealing with an injury.
Yeah, but he's going to be fine.
Texas Tech is dealing with a couple injuries. Auburn just lost 3 of the last 4 games.
Who you got? So who you got?
I have them beating Duke in the championship. I have Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Tennessee.
So you want all 1 seeds?
No, Tennessee's a 2. Yeah, pretty chalky. But I think the top 6-7 teams in the country this year are the best top 6-7 teams we've seen in a while. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, all right.
The games tip off.
St. John's plays it like
Well, don't you want to hear my Final Four?
Yeah, what's your Final Four, Jim?
Grand Canyon, Liberty, Creighton, and Purdue.
I think I have Purdue losing in the first round.
If Jason wins, we should all just quit.
Nobody. I'm sure nobody's got any of those teams in the Final Four.
The very first flip.
You do coin flips on everything?
Coin flips on everything. I took my kid's coin from Great Wolf Lodge and just made a heads and tails and flipped a coin. The very first flip, I lost Duke. On the very first flip.
Nice.
It's like, this is not going to go well.
Maybe you should pick the first round. Because that'll weed out the 16 seeds.
Right. And then do the coin flip.
Nope. Coin flip all the way.
Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, let's dive into the Cavs loss last night. Unfortunately, they were unable to hold off the Sacramento Kings. They've now lost their 3rd straight game. And after the game, Donovan Mitchell spoke with Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com, who was in Sacramento covering the game, and gave him this quote. And I want to present this quote, then we can react to what Donovan had to say and figure out if it's worth panicking over for the Cavs. Yes, I spelled Donovan's name wrong, Steve. I already know. My bad, Donovan. When you lose 3 games in a row, I guess you could miss 1 letter in the name, so it's all evens out. But Donovan told Chris Fedor, the sky's not falling, but we have some blank to figure out. This is part of it. We have to be better. That's no lie. I feel like this is something that is going to help us going forward. You don't grow without going through things.
I agree with Donovan. I can't believe I put on Ken and Lima this morning for a little bit on my drive. Not my drive. I don't know. I had a doctor's appointment this morning. That's when I put them on. So I was driving in, I put them on, and they brought in some caller. And this guy, 2 callers in a row, were losing their minds. The Cavs they should have made this trade. They should have made that trade. They got to break up the bed. They've been having a historic season. They have 1 bad week, and we're losing our minds. This is crazy. Donovan's right. I'm not worried at all. Maybe I'm lost. But I have no panic about the Cavs whatsoever, guys. I don't know what you think.
No, I think this is a good thing. I think he's right because you want, first of all, almost every team goes through this in March, and particularly here in Cleveland. Like, especially now, this is, you're late in the year, and now you got a West Coast trip thrown in at the end of the season because, the NCAAs are here in Cleveland this week, so you got to vacate for a week. And I mentioned Mike on the podcast that we did yesterday. In the championship era, every year around this time, the Cavs would unravel. They'd go on a bad skid, and fans would lose their minds and say it's all over. It's not all over. Like, for this team in particular, I think this is a good thing because it shows them, it exposes some vulnerabilities maybe that they have that were not exposed earlier. And I don't care. Like, we can get in the numbers, and I think Mike's got the numbers of, like, Donovan and Darius' shooting slumps.
Yeah, they've been bad since the All-Star break.
To me, that's just a little bit of a regression to the mean. And once the ball leaves your hand, there's nothing you can do about it. With these guys, they're such great shooters, but they're not all going to go in. And how many times you heard it's a make or miss league. So when the ball leaves your hand, if it's a good shot and you're in rhythm and all that, there's nothing you can do about it. There's good shots, bad shots. But if it's a good shot and it doesn't go in, there's nothing you can do about that. The part where I would circle is okay, well, when you get pushed around inside, when you get beat physically, when you're not guarding well, when you're not guarding the three-point line, those are all the correctable things that you can look at film and say, we have to get better here, 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 and here. If you're not making shots, okay, you're going to have times you're not making shots. But you shouldn't be giving up 40 points to the Kings in a quarter. That's the stuff that you can correct, and that's why I agree with him. I think it's a good thing that Kenny Atkinson can turn on film now and say, hey, we're not this 75-win juggernaut that we appeared to be at times this year. 70 wins is off the table. I don't think that's a big deal at all. I don't think it was anything to chase. Yeah. I mean, unless they pull the nose up, they may not get to 66, which is the franchise record again. I don't know that matters.
You think any of the players care about that?
Yeah. I think 67 probably matters a little bit more than 70.
But to the point of, you're going to play differently because of it?
No, but, I mean, it maybe you stay engaged a little bit longer in games because we've talked about what a long season it is, and these games are a grind. So it may keep you motivated. It may keep you engaged and focused a little bit more. I think it would be cool to some of these guys to set a franchise record for wins. But, ultimately, I don't think anything that's happening right now will have any bearing on what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that this is a good thing that it's happening now. It's not like the last week of the year. There's still time to get things together. You're not doing this with all your horses. I mean, guys have been banged up. Garland, what's the status with Garland?
It was just a rest game.
Just a rest game.
He's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, but again, so you didn't have all your horses. So I'm cool with it. I do think that they're going to be fine. I don't want this to happen. I want to win every game. I just think it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise. And they've given themselves such a cushion in terms of room for error.
Yeah.
They can afford this. Now, don't lose 5 more in a row. Let's try to get it together here. Phoenix tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, they got 5 and 8. Which
this road trip was 5 games in 8 days.
Right.
4 of the teams they're playing are fighting for playoff spots.
Right. The other teams have something to play for.
I think that's an important
for.
factor here. Is the Cavs, to Dustin's point, they've locked up the 1 seed. We talked about it yesterday, Bull. The Clippers needed that game to stay in playoff contention, and last night the Kings needed that game to stay within the hunt for a play-in or playoff spot. And Phoenix needs Friday's game to continue where they're at in the standings. They're actually out in the Western Conference right now, or they're number 10 right now. They're tied with Dallas. The Blazers, a game and a half out on Tuesday. Another team that's just hungry at this point of the season when the Cavs, frankly, don't have that same juice to get up for every game.
And to be fair, during the 16-game winning streak, I'm sure they played a lot of teams that had more motivation to win, and they didn't. The Cavs won. They're in a slump right now. I mean, if you turn this slump into, well, this is who they are versus what you saw the previous 60-something games, I think that's unfair. This all comes back. The panic is because of the continued nervousness. People have been trying to pretend that they're not nervous about the playoffs because of how the playoffs ended the last 2 years. The Cavs have flamed out in the postseason the last 2 years. And so every fan, no matter how well the Cavs play.
Did they flame out last year? Really? Did they flame out? They lost to the eventual champion without their best player.
You're right. That's fair. They flamed out against the Knicks.
They flamed out against the Knicks, 100%.
They didn't play particularly well against Orlando. In a series they probably should have won more handily. But you're right. Against Boston, they really had no realistic chance to win. But the point is, the fans, there remains an uncomfortable feeling about the playoffs. And no matter how well they play this year, you're always going to have that feeling of, can they do it in the playoffs? And any slump brings that to the forefront a little bit.
I think you're touching on something, and it's because, number one, they've never gotten there, and number two, they don't have the hammer. Like, in the past, they had the hammer.
Yes.
So they always had the best player in the series.
Yes.
That's not the case anymore.
That's right.
And they've never, even like, for as great as Donovan is, he's never been to conference finals. So he's never been there.
Yeah.
So how can you have assurance that they can get there when they've never been there?
Right.
So I think that's where a lot of the – now, having said that, I absolutely think that they're going to get there this – I think they're a conference finals team this year. And then you line up and you see who's better. But because they don't have that guy that they've always had for 20 years when they've been in the playoffs, they had the hammer when they were going to win a championship. And because they're trying to do things that they haven't done before – I understand where you're coming from, where you're getting that, because I think there's some validity to that.
Right, and I think that leads to the panic because fans felt so giddy about this season, but they were able to bury that feeling of nervousness, and this brings it out.
But they were going to be nervous even if this team won 65 games.
Right, even if they won 70, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have that feeling, especially against Boston.
Yeah, the nervousness still comes in the first round.
Yes.
It still comes in the second.
If they kick ass in the first round, that'll go away a little bit. If they dominate, winning 4 or 5 games, we'll feel a little differently. But you're still going to have Boston looming there.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to feel comfortable until, and this is still not comfortable, but until they get to the finals, we're not going to believe they have a chance. Really, truly believe.
That's right.
Because they still got to get through Boston.
Yeah.
Still got to get through. I mean, depending on how things, it looks like they're going to be. They got the 1 seed.
They're going to be the 1 seed.
So
yes.
They're going to avoid New York, right?
Yeah.
As of right now, the standings, New York is essentially locked into the 3 seed. They're 4 games up on Indiana. So most likely they'll play the winner of Indiana, Milwaukee, Detroit, who are all within 1 game of each other for the 4, 5, and 6.
Perfect. So perfect, because I think New York scares us a little bit more than those other teams do.
I think coming into this year, I felt that way. New York hasn't won
They're kind of a
good
mess.
team all year,
The Knicks
so
are
I
kind
don't
of a
know.
mess.
But
yeah, I don't know, man. I just that coach and that team, they're tough, and in the playoffs, I think they'll be different.
It could be different. Yeah, I mean that's again, we keep talking about it being a different animal for the Cavs in the playoffs. So it could be for the Knicks too.
We saw Orlando the other night.
Yeah,
play this team very well.
Yeah.
Atlanta's beaten this team multiple times. So it's not like it's an easy path. I would pick the Cavs to win every series.
Yeah.
But Atlanta's long and athletic and has had success against this team this year. Orlando knows how to play them. They're not intimidated at all by the Cavs.
Right.
In the second round, a team like Milwaukee's already won a championship. They've got championship DNA.
Yeah.
And then
the
in
Knicks
the finals,
beat them 2 years ago if it got to that.
Yeah.
And then Indiana was just in a conference final.
Last year. Indiana's probably better than they get credit for.
Yeah.
And then Boston in the so it's not like it's an easy path.
No.
I would pick the Cavs to win up until the conference finals, and then, I want to see who's healthy and how both teams are playing before then. But I think they've had easier paths in the past than what they would have this year, even as the 1 seed.
Yeah, and the first round or 2 of the playoffs, this is going to just become whatever happens at the end of the regular season. The Cavs could play 500 basketball the rest of the way. And if they look great in the first round, we're going to completely forget about it.
Of course.
Go ahead, Mike.
So over the last 3 games,
Yeah.
I've picked out, I don't want to call them trends, but I picked out 3 things that at least caught my eye. You guys tell me if it's just a random 3-game sample size, something that we should keep an eye on moving forward, anything of importance, or, okay, this may be something we need to watch. Mm-hmm. I'll give you 1, we'll react. I'll give you the next, we'll react, next, we'll react. But on the season, the Cavs have the second highest team 3-point make rate in basketball. They're making about 16 threes per game. In each of their last 3 losses, they have been outscored from the 3-point line by Orlando, by LA, and by Sacramento. That's where each of those teams ranks as of this morning in team 3-point makes per game. The Cavs.
Yeah, that is weird. Not only did you get out 3-pointed, but out 3-pointed by 3 terrible 3-point games.
Yes.
Especially the Magic. I mean, they're the worst.
Literally the worst in basketball.
Yeah, they are.
It only goes to 30. Yeah. So is that anything to be worried about? Just a coincidence, weird trend? I'll just present this to you.
I think I'd say coincidence.
Slump.
Yeah, whatever. Weird trend. All the above.
I don't think it's a bigger picture concern.
I think there's 2 sides of that. There's offensively not making shots, and there's defensively not doing a good job of guarding the 3-point line. So defensively, I think they can and need to do a better job of guarding the 3-point line. Shots, you're going to miss shots. So you can't. I guess I'd be more curious in the number.
Yeah.
Not just that they got outshot, but what was the number on there? Because the Clippers couldn't miss a shot when they played the other night.
Right. And it's weird.
The Kings, what was the Kings' third quarter last night? What did they score in the third quarter? It was obnoxious.
The Kings scored 108 points in the final 3 quarters. In the third quarter specifically, they had 43 points.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
I wonder if, could it be that their game plan defensively, because they were playing 3 bad shooting 3-point teams, was to kind of force them to shoot threes and it just backfired?
That happens a lot. Buzz Williams back at A&M got killed his first year because the defense he plays funnels teams to shoot corner threes. Whatever. I know that seems like an easy shot. His defensive metrics swear, we want you to take these shots. Take them. If you make them, you'll beat us. And the first year he was at A&M when I was there, they lost a ton of games. He got killed. And since then, they've been one of the best defensive teams in the country. And it was simply a variance of teams made shots that one year versus then regressing to the mean.
Yeah, but guys don't hit threes in college like they do.
No, but I'm just
pros.
saying there are defensive strategies that force and what's the word I'm looking for? Encourage teams to take shots that they want you to take, and it absolutely can backfire. They're NBA players; they can make shots.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was the strategy, but it certainly is.
Yeah, right.
Something. All right, next trend I noticed. The Cavs have the number 2 scoring bench in basketball. However, against the Magic, they only outscored the Magic bench, which was not good, by 6 points. They outscored the Clippers bench, which is one of the lowest scoring benches in basketball, by 1 point. And last night they outscored the Kings bench by just 8 points, despite having similar gaps in terms of where the Cavs bench scoring ranks versus the others.
Haven't they not had somebody?
They've mixed up the lineups, which is true.
Yeah.
But the Cavs bench had been kind of one of their superpowers in extending leads when they go through their first rotations. Over the last 3 games, it has not been nearly as efficient as it has been. Anything to look more into, or just once again random 3-game trend?
I think that's a nothing burger.
Nothing burger.
Yeah, you didn't have Evan against Orlando. You didn't have Darius last night. So,
and the first one of the 3 was Orlando, right? Yeah. You didn't? Did you have? Was it Evan and Donovan were both out against Orlando, or just Evan?
Just Evan.
No, Donovan played.
Okay.
Donovan played.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys, for the record. And last one, we talked about just some of the shooting discrepancies for the Cavs. This is Donovan pre-All-Star break and post-All break. We'll show you Darius in 1 second, but the points a little up, the field goal percentage down, the 3-point percentage down almost 10 points despite playing slightly more minutes. So he's taking more shots, slightly less efficient. Let's go to Darius here, Steve, the very next graphic. Points down, field goal percentage down 11 points, 3-point percentage down 12 points. His true shooting down almost 13 points.
What does true shooting mean exactly?
A combination of all your shooting stuff put into one. It's a pretty good one.
Nice
stat.
little algorithm that may not be easy to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His numbers are way more dramatic than Donovan's.
Yes.
How many games is that post All-Star break?
They've played 15 or 14. Darius missed 2 or 3, so it's 11.
Yeah,
or
man,
10, 11
guys,
games.
I just think that's not big enough sample size to be able to throw off the red flag or the alarm, whatever you want to call it. I'm just not there.
Right.
It's similar to baseball. Dude, teams get into these things. There's a lot of games. It's a long year. Guys are banged up. Let's just chill out on the panic mode right now. Our teams, what are we at? 56.
56
and 13 and 13. 56 and 13.
Yeah.
56 and 13. Think about that. Guys, we've been spoiled this year. We're having a conversation about should we panic? They've lost 3 games in a row. Every team in basketball has probably had a 3-game losing streak this year, right?
Is that their first 3-game losing streak? Or,
no, they're second. They lost 3 in January.
Right. These things
I'm looking to see if OKC lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in a similar boat as the Cavs.
I'm looking at Donovan's overall numbers.
OKC hasn't, no.
Donovan is basically playing like he was his last year in Utah. Shooting almost identical. 3-point percentage is up.
Darius's 3-point percentage was due to regress, no?
I mean, he was shooting 43 pre-All-Star break, which is
high.
probably a little higher, but that's not crazy for Darius. He's certainly better than a 31% 3-point shooter.
Right. Yeah. I think he'll settle in and be.
He's like a 37% guy, right? Something like that.
It's also later in the season. He's not a big guy. I wonder if he's worn down a little bit, and that's why they gave him the day off he hasn't played as well lately. That's clear.
He he's right at his his career best shooting from 3 is 41%.
He's right at it.
And he's right at it.
So he's shooting the best of his career.
I think big picture, nothing from last night should change how you feel about the Cavs whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think if they're going to win a championship, Donovan and Darius have to find and regain their rhythm.
Yeah,
But
100%.
Yes.
right now, at this point on March 20th at 11:26 a.m., anyone who's freaking out, including callers into the Ken and Lima show, including a lot of people in our Twitter mentions, I think need to take a chill pill.